it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the pages loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Good, how are you?
Good.
First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the days on its run. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
Reagan, too. Your best feature.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are on a mission. We are on a mission to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's a rescue mission to save families and patients all across this country. We are saving people from rising health care costs, from plans being canceled, from people losing their doctors. We're for a stable transition, a healthcare system that puts patients first and doesn't pull the rug out from underneath anyone. We're for lower cost, increased choices. We're putting people first. That's the promise that we have made, and that's the promise we're going to keep. After years of listening to people in our local communities, we're keeping our promises through the American Health Care Act. We've said all along that this is a step-by-step process, and that's exactly what we're doing. In fact, right now, every American can read the bill at readthebill.gop. Download the American Health Care Act and read the legislation for yourself. We'd love to hear from you. We are starting this process immediately, and actually, Whip Scalise and I will be heading to Energy and Commerce immediately following this press conference. And as we do this, we are keeping people in mind, patients, families, the most vulnerable. And my message to those watching at home is, we hear you. I'm proud to say that President Trump and the administration hear you too. This is unified Republican government at work, fulfilling our promise. We're seizing this historic moment before us to provide families all across this country relief, lower cost, and choices.
Back in 2009, when Obamacare started moving through Congress, we predicted that this law would fail because of all of the provisions in the bill that destroyed what was good in health care. This is my original copy of Obamacare. I had just gotten on the committee when we started to have hearings on the bill, and it moved through over months and months. As we went through this bill, you could see all the components that were going to destroy health care for families. When the president said, if you like what you have, you can keep it, we predicted back then that the provisions in this bill that took away the ability for families to make their health care choice would destroy the doctor-patient relationship. And unfortunately, that turned out to be true. When we looked at all the taxes that were in this bill, $1 trillion in new taxes, we predicted that the costs of health care were going to go up dramatically for families. And unfortunately, that turned out to be true. But when this bill went through, we made a promise to the American people that if we ever had the opportunity with the House and the Senate and the White House, that we would go to work to repeal this failed law and rescue the American people from the damage that's been done by Obamacare. And what's really exciting is today I get to go in to that same room in Energy and Commerce where Obamacare passed back in 2009 to start the work of repealing and replacing Obamacare with actual laws that will put patients back in charge of their health care decisions. A real focus on lowering costs for families and letting people make those important decisions so that the doctor-patient relationship can finally get restored and so that the freedom of the ability for families to not have an unelected bureaucrat in Washington tell them what they can or can't buy, they can actually make those decisions for themselves. So this is going to be an important first step today in finally rescuing families across this country from the devastation that is Obamacare.
Good morning. I'm Phil Rowe, and it occurred to me as I was walking down the street this morning that I've been a doctor almost as long as the speaker's been alive, 46 years. And during that 46-year period of time, I've had a chance to practice medicine in inner city, 4 decades ago in Southeast Asia as a young Army doctor, and then 31 years in Northeast Tennessee and rural Appalachia seeing patients. We're going to keep our word and repeal this flawed law so that we can put patients and doctors back in charge of healthcare decisions. In my state, to show you the harm it's done, almost 160,000 people chose to pay a penalty. In the hospital system where I practiced, which is a large hospital system, I taught medical students and residents there, between 60 and 70% of the uncollectible debt are people with insurance. That's not providing care for people. People are delaying care because they can't pay the outrageous co-pays and out-of-pockets. Medicaid is going to be reformed. Look, we have first-class people. I took care of them for years who are getting second-class care. with this reform and putting it back in the hands of the states, look, the care that should be done in Northeast Tennessee and rural Appalachia is different than inner city Atlanta. I want those first-class patients to get first-class health care, and I think they can with this reform bill. We're going to repeal the taxes, the onerous taxes in this bill. And I think one of the most exciting things for me as a physician, after seeing patients with no care, taking care of patients with no care, is for the first time in my life, we have an opportunity to provide health insurance coverage for every American. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a noble thing to do.
I want to thank Dr. Phil Rowe. As you see, for his decades of service in the medical community, this has been his number one passion of why he's been in Congress. Because he's watched even from his own home state of Tennessee. And we have to remember, why are we here today and why are we working on this? It's not a political purpose. It's a reason because we've listened to the American public. He happens to be from Tennessee. We listened to Humana announce that they are pulling out. Do you realize in his home state there'll now be 16 counties with no provider at all? Do we ignore that? That's not the answer here. We want to solve it. But they're not the only ones across this country. After the passage of Obamacare, we now have 1/3 of all the counties in America, 1,022, that only have one carrier. 23 co-ops were given more than $2 billion. In that short amount of time, 18 of them have now failed. We cannot ignore this problem any longer. That's why we had the wisdom to listen, and now this week we'll have the courage to lead. The members before us left for markup. They'll go through energy and commerce, through ways and means, and then through budget reconciliation. This is what the American people have asked for. This is what those across this country have wanted, and we have been willing to listen, and now we will lead.
Oh, sorry. This is a good day. The American people, the people we serve, they need relief from Obamacare now more than ever. You know why? Because this law is rapidly collapsing. Let's not forget that. Premium went up double digits this year in 31 states. The insurers are telling us it will be even worse next year if we stay on this path. Choices had dwindled to the point that 1 out of every 3 counties in America is left with just one insurer to choose from. The CEO of Aetna has stated that the law is in a death spiral. So we know without a shred of doubt that this law is collapsing. That means this is the choice we face. Are we going to stay with Obamacare and ride out the status quo? Are we going to just let this law collapse and whatever happens, happens? Or are we going to do what we said we would do? Are we going to repeal and replace Obamacare with something better? This is the covenant that we made with the American people when we ran on a repeal and replace plan in 2016. This is what our bill does. Go online, read it for yourself. Go to readthebill.gop. It repeals Obamacare's taxes. It repeals Obamacare's spending. It repeals Obamacare's mandates. It creates a vibrant market where insurance companies compete for your business, where you have lower costs, more choices, and greater control over your health care. And it returns power. This is most important. This returns power from Washington back to doctors and patients, back to states. This is what good conservative healthcare reform looks like. It is bold, and it is long overdue, and it is us fulfilling our promises. So I encourage everyone to go online and read our bill at readthebill.gop. Is there any questions? Christine.
That some of the changes to the bill from previous drafts would help get some conservatives on board, and were you surprised at the sort of depth of concern registered yesterday?
Well, as you know, we had this bottom-up process that's been over a year long. Last year, we assembled working groups from the committees of jurisdiction and any House Republican that wants to participate in fashioning the repeal and replace plan, which we did and ran on in our Better Way agenda. Then this year, the committees have been leading a process all year long. Briefings, listening sessions, conferences, committee hearings. And we've got a lot of feedback from members over that process. Our chairs, Walden and Brady, in Ways and Means and Commerce, got feedback from members on two provisions, whether we have a cap on the size of the credit or whether there's a cap on the exclusion. Those two concerns were addressed in the latest draft of the bill because, again, this is a participatory process. This is a bottom-up process. So those are the concerns that were brought to the committees of jurisdiction by lots of members, not just conservatives, but lots of members, and those concerns were addressed, again, because it's an inclusive process. I think what you're seeing is we're going through the inevitable growing pains of being an opposition party to becoming a governing party. And in being an opposition party where you have divided government, 64% of our members have never known what it's like to work with a Republican president, to have unified government. So it's a new feel, it's a new system for people, but it's all the more reason why we have to do what we said we would do and deliver for the American people and govern and use our principles. That's what this is. Yeah.
You seem to be trusting the White House to help deliver some of the votes you need to get this done. Are you outsourcing this, and are you confident the White House will deliver?
Not in the least. This is a team sport, and this is something where I talked to the president twice yesterday. He had dozens of members down at the White House yesterday. We're working hand in glove with President Trump, Vice President Pence, Secretary Price. This is an all hands on deck because you know what? We all ran on repealing and replacing Obamacare. We know that if we do nothing, the system collapses. We know that if we just repealed it, the system collapses. This is why we have to pass it with something better. Look, I would just say this. Look at what this does. This is a conservative wish list. Look at what this bill does. It repeals Obamacare's taxes. That's $1 trillion in tax relief for families that will help them with the cost of health care. It repeals Obamacare's spending, Medicaid expansion, and the Obamacare subsidies. It repeals the Obamacare mandates on individuals and businesses. It ends the funding for Planned Parenthood and sends that money to community health centers, which there are more of. It has a Medicaid per capita block grant. That's the biggest entitlement reform anyone here has seen. It nearly doubles the amount of money people can put in health savings accounts. That's a law I co-authored in 2003, which is what conservatives believe is really critical for creating a free market in health care. It equalizes the tax treatment of health care. Tax credits for health insurance is something that we as healthcare conservative reformers have been working on for years. This has been the crown jewel of conservative healthcare reform, to equalize the tax treatment of healthcare so that we can have a vibrant individual market, to have a free market in healthcare, to bring consumers into the market, to put pressure on providers. This is what's wrong in healthcare, among many other things. We don't have true price and quality competition in healthcare. We want all the providers of healthcare services, insurers, doctors, hospitals, everyone competing against each other for our business as patients, as consumers. You do that when you create a vibrant individual market. Lower costs, more competition, more choice, and most importantly, get Washington out of the business of being a nanny state, of micromanaging and running healthcare into the ground. Get it back to patients, get it back to doctors, get it back to states. That's what this does. This is monumental, exciting conservative reform that fixes these problems. This is something that I've been working on this for 20 years. This is exciting. This is what we've been dreaming about doing, and we know it's going to make a positive difference in people's lives in this country. And it's juxtaposed against the backdrop of a collapsing law that is doing real damage to families every day in America. Susan.
Give us an update on the CBO score. What do you expect it this week?
We do. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's probably, we know it will come well before the bill gets to the floor. It's very common that you have markups in authorizing committee levels before you have a score. That's common practice. But because we made some changes this weekend to accommodate members' concerns, particularly conservatives, that pushed the date back a little bit. So I expect at the beginning of next week, I think, no later than sometime early next week, we'll get the score well before we go to the floor. Wong.
Last question.
Yes, thank you. You said you have no doubt that you will get the 218 votes necessary to pass this bill. What gives you that certainty? What are you seeing on the ground?
I have no doubt we'll pass this because we're going to keep our promises. Every House Republican, I think every Republican in Congress, including the President of the United States, made a promise to the American people. And the promise we made to the American people is we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Because we made that promise, I am confident we're going to make good on that promise. Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. So the hearings, the Senate hearings are going to start regarding this bill. I think it starts in just a few minutes. We will look into it and then we'll go back online. It looks like first they're going to go through the Health and Energy Commission, I think it's called. And then, it goes through another phase, different commissions, the Budget Commission. So it's gonna be a long process, but I think it starts today. I'm 100% sure it does. Once we get footage, we'll go back online. Thank you very much, everyone. I know everyone has mixed feelings about this new bill. We are still reviewing it, and any developments or anything like that, we will be updating them on a stream or on our social media. If you are new to our community, hit that subscribe button. Join the community. We welcome you. If you already did, then just click the notification bell. We have more streams coming on today, like I said, and hope to see you guys then. Thank you very much, everyone, and good morning. All right, folks, so I just got word. We are going to have a presser, Sean Spicer press briefing later on today in just a few hours. It will be up on our channel in just a few minutes. So check back on their channel and it'll be on there. Hope to see you guys at the presser. Thank you.